How Jethro Tull got their own mascot with, well, Ian Anderson standing on one leg, the one-legged flautist. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. We asked Ian Anderson how that all got started, because not all bands can have a mascot. It's kind of a mascot, where you see that flautist on one leg and you immediately think Jethro Tull.
No, I've never had any difficulty stepping into that slightly exaggerated version of myself. It is a character, but it's me. You know, I don't have to go on and be an actor. I'm not an actor. You know, I stray on occasion to performing lyrically in character, but I don't. I wouldn't call myself an actor. Therefore, for me to go on stage and pretend to be somebody else would not really be in my nature and within my scope of ability. So I just employ that little exaggerated aspect of my own personality. I bring that to the fore. I mean, other people, you know, they get off work on a Friday night, they go down to a bar with a few buddies, they sink a few beers, and that other part of their character or another part will come out. Sometimes it's very unpleasant. But, you know, most people are not one-dimensional. You know, you see people behaving in different ways. You know, take the same guy who starts blinding and cussing and being argumentative in a bar after a few beers, you know, and then watch that expression when he's at his mother's funeral next week. You will see a different character come to the fore, one filled with anguish, loss, humility, love. So we're all a mix of different people somewhere in our complex psyches. And I just take one little element and say, okay, here you go. You know, run free for 2 hours on stage, and don't forget to share the money with me.
Where did the one-legged flute player, where did that stance come from? How did that start?
Well, because as a harmonica player at the Marquee Club in London in a little blues band called Jethro Tull, I used to play the harmonica, and I used to lift one leg off the floor when I played the harmonica, because you suck more than you blow playing blues harmonica, and so sucking in was a natural kind of reaction, really, to, you know, lifting up one leg off the floor. And then I would cup my hands around the microphone to play the harmonica and balance on one leg. And people noticed that in the early days of Jethro Tull, and particularly the very first media interest shown in us said two things about the band. It said, oh, they have a guy who stands on one leg, and he plays the flute. They noticed those two things, but they put them together. So when I read that, I thought, oh, right, and I have to learn to play flute standing on one leg, which is a whole lot harder because you need both of your hands to play the flute. Yeah. You can't hang on to a microphone stand for assistance. So that's where it started at the Marquee Club. When I read the way in which people had described me, I then thought, oh, right, I have to do this then every night, because that's what people are expecting. And of course, to this day, it sort of makes its little feature in the, people who have a physical trademark are very lucky. There are lots of people who have it in different ways. Sometimes they're comedians, sometimes they're actors who develop a little twitch or a little mannerism that, almost regardless of the character they're playing, they will introduce those little elements into their performance. And of course, with musicians, we have, who could forget Chuck Berry's Duck Walk, or Pete Townsend windmilling his arms around, or Joe Cocker doing his sort of feverish sort of pretending he's playing guitar while he was singing. There are all those little things that people have, and that's, very much part of your association with them. They're very lucky people to have that, because a whole bunch of them have nothing at all to do, who just stand around looking lame and don't really have a physical, a little physical kind of example of how they perform that can be an extra level on which people can access your music, your performance, or whatever. It can be a little cheesy and a little overdone, but I often think, well, I'm lucky to have one of those little things that people associate with me, and glad that I stumbled upon that particular little manifestation of physicality that reminds people of Jethro Tull.
We'll have more from Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull coming up next week. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, share our videos, and comment on them as well. I'm John Beaudin from Rocky Stream Music.